So, folks, we're back at it again with another call from the Transatlantic Call-In Show. It's a show that I've been co-hosting now for months, and you should go check it out. There are lots of different calls. I've been on several different episodes now. I co-host. I'm trying to co-host every other week, so you can check that out. But the show itself is on every week on Thursday. So go check it out. And guess what? The show, the Transatlantic Call-In Show, is on The Line. And if you don't know what that is, there's a link down in the description to The Line. It has a lot of different shows on it. Has a lot of different great content creators, some of whom you may be familiar with, others of whom you may not be. Go check it out. There's also a link down there to the Patreon and the merch store. A lot of really cool stuff. This particular episode was with Josie Caballero. Go check it out. Josie's also running for office, so go check out Josie and support her candidacy. And of course, also, folks, if you don't know what the Transatlantic Call-In Show is, it is a show where people can call in, oddly enough, and ask any question they want about transness, whether it's for advice or they want to have a spicy debate or they have just a genuine question they've always wanted to know, or if they've been getting some conflicting information and they don't really know what to believe. We're here to help you out. So call in and let us know what's on your mind. It's a great show. I have enjoyed every single episode I've been on, and we get a very wide variety of different calls. So, of course, also like, comment, and subscribe here. But also, if you want to check out the full episode, there's a link down in the description to that too. So, like, comment, subscribe here, and like, comment, and subscribe over there. It's a win-win. Go do the things. And you can watch live again every Thursday. Go check that out. And I hope you enjoy this back and forth in this call.
So we are going to be talking to Luca, he, him from California, wants to talk about trans allyship and what it means to be transgender. You are live on the line with Josie and Jack. How are you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
howdy.
Okay. Hi. I just wanted to say right off the bat, I think I have a lot of respect for what you guys do, and I think you provide a very important resource. So I think it's really cool what you guys do. And I was just looking for clarification on what exactly it means to be a certain gender if it is not based in biological reference.
Yeah.
Sure, I will go ahead and just start. So, Luca, are you what do you identify as? Are you a man?
Yes.
Why?
I think that my biology makes me a male, and I think that being a male makes me a man.
Okay. So, you are positing that there's no difference between sex and gender?
I would say the only distinction I would make is that gender only applies to humans.
Okay, that's fine. I can understand that. So that's fine. So you do acknowledge that there is a thing called gender.
Yes.
Okay, just ask again, is sex and gender the same?
I would say sure for all
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So do you believe that in society that a lot of people believe that there's a difference between the two?
Between sex and gender, no.
Yes. Okay, so your understanding of sex and gender are they are the same. So when somebody says that there is a difference between sex and gender, you just say no, there's not.
No. I would be willing to learn otherwise. I just don't get a lot of opportunities to.
Okay,
speak
great.
to people who think like this.
Okay,
Yeah.
no worries, no worries. So we talked about it earlier too. So when you walk around in society, right, when you're dealing with human beings out in the world and you see somebody that you perceive as a woman or a man, um, how do you know that they are a woman or a man if you don't have the opportunity to like touch them on the crotch or put your hands on them to find out what their sex
Yeah,
is? What do you do?
yeah. I would not know. I might like
You
believe a certain thing based on what
Sure,
I see about them, but I would have no way of knowing
right. So what you're
unless, of
interacting
course, they were
with,
like pregnant or something.
sure. So what you're interacting with is their gender, not their sex, right? Because if sex and gender were the same, then you would physically have to touch somebody to be able to determine that or like see them without their clothes in this very simple example. There's a lot of different things about sex, but so that on its face is you interacting with someone's gender outside of their sex. Would you agree to that?
Um, I'm not sure, only because um, I think that people can dress however they like and appear however they like without
Yes, I
necessarily
agree.
being a certain gender.
I agree with that, Luca. That's not what I'm positing, because the idea of sex and gender, right? For people who believe that gender is real and different from sex, call it
Hmm.
a social construction. The social construction is how we societally identify the gender of people, right? And societally, normally we ask them, right? Like I asked you if you were a man, right? Because I don't know you're a man other than your word that you said that you're a man, right? That's just how it
Okay.
goes. So for me, I'm using, because I can't physically touch you, see you, have your chromosomes, and I have to take your word for it. So I'm interacting with your gender as Luca, not the biology of Luca. Does that make sense?
Okay. So then when I say like I'm a man, or when somebody says they are a woman,
Well,
and I'm
yeah.
taking their word for it, um,
hmm
what exactly are they saying about themselves?
They're saying exactly what you said about yourself, right? You just said you are a man, so therefore you
But
are.
when I say it, I mean something about my biology. But when they say it,
Oh,
they're not
can I
referring to biology, right? So
can I
what
ask
are they
what
saying?
can I ask what about your biology you're referring to when you say you're a man? Like when in your mind, what do you think makes you a man?
Um, I think that it would be a group of characteristics that when enough of these characteristics are met, you would be either a man or a woman, right? So,
Like
and
physical
generally these things are
characteristics?
based around either impregnating or um, or being pregnant.
So like if you say you got into like a motorcycle accident and like your genitals got shaved off, you lost the ability to like impregnate, let's say. Just
Yes,
taking
yes,
at your word here,
yes.
would you stop being a man?
No, no. I don't
And
think
what
that
else is it?
like infertile people, for example, I think they would still be men and women, right?
Why?
But um, why? Because I think they still meet the necessary, characteristics to be either a man or woman. I think that even if um, something is a little different about you, because all of us are not the same, right? Like we are all human,
Yep.
even though there's nothing that every human has in common. There's very few things that every human has in common with each other, right? So we categorize humans by a set of characteristics that things outside of our kind do not share with us. But and even though I would say, for example, a human is bipedal and a few other things, there are some people who don't have legs or um, or are missing certain things, but I don't think that does not make them human.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that isn't that like you would stop being human if you got into a motorcycle accident, but I'm also not sitting here saying like, you are a man because you have, on paper the ability to impregnate somebody, right? Like we're talking about something
Right,
very
right.
different when we're talking about your biology versus
Yeah,
how you identify, right? Because I
I
found
see.
like in a lot of doing a lot of these conversations, right? Like, for example, a lot of people are like, well, my biology makes me a man. Almost all those people have never done like a DNA test to like know what their chromosomes are. Um, and that's,
Hmm.
a lot of them will say like my chromosomes make me a man, but like they
You
aren't
never
Yeah,
tested them.
aware of that. They've never tested that. So
I
when
see.
people are saying like I'm a man, that's different from saying your sex or sexual characteristics are male. Those are two different things,
Okay.
and it's why we have a different set of terminology for each thing, right? Because
Yeah.
there are a lot of
Right,
different
right.
aspects of gender, like gender expression, gender identity, etc. In the same way, there are a lot of different sex expressions biologically, right?
Um, yeah. I just to confirm, do we agree on sex, on what, determines male and female? Or
Yes.
Yeah,
For the most part. For the
I
okay,
most
think
part,
so.
okay,
right? Like
okay.
it's a bimodal
Yeah,
curve, right? Like we and
okay.
that's what I mean, Luca. That's why I say there's a difference between the two, right? Because would you
Yeah.
agree that language is descriptive?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great.
It,
So
it
do
it's
you
used
do
to
you do
describe our
you
reality.
yes, exactly. And do you agree that we get more descriptive as time passes? So for example, somebody
For
who
sure.
has a computer, right? Before there were computers, there were no words for like circuit boards and sound
Yeah,
cards and all of those type of things, right? We had to develop the
yeah.
language as we understood more about technology. We had to create words to describe those things. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm fully with you there.
Okay, great. So when we talk about like, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, relationship configuration, and sex, we can agree that those words became better descriptors of people's human experiences. So, for example, sexual orientation, just because there wasn't a word for sexual orientation, you would agree that gay people existed throughout history, right?
Of course. Of course.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But humans used words to describe that behavior of humanity, right? Of being a gay person, right? That identity. Um, but it existed, and then we found words to describe those things. And so
Right.
we are at a point in our descriptive understanding of language that sex isn't enough anymore. Sex isn't that simple that it used to
I
be
see.
in the way that we describe it. So that's why we created another word such as gender, even though gender has existed throughout history, because we've always had these social ways of people behave throughout historical understanding, right? Like there was a Roman emperor that was a trans woman, for example. Like trans people have existed, even though they were born male or born female, they may not have shown up to the world the way most male and female people did. Would you agree with that?
I do, but what I
Okay.
really want to know is like, um, I'm not opposed to, new definitions to encompass concepts better as we learn about them, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm just I'm just lost on what exactly man and woman as genders would be referring to, if not biology, if not the sex
Yes.
binary.
No, and I get that, right? And that's why I'm trying to talk about how when you separate sex and gender, it becomes much easier to understand, right? And I kind
Yeah,
of say this tongue in cheek sometimes, but do you have sex with somebody or do you have gender with somebody?
you have sex with somebody.
Exactly. Why can't you just say I have gender with somebody?
Um, I'm not. I'm not sure.
Because the word doesn't make sense because it's a different way you
Oh,
use the
yeah,
word,
yeah,
right?
yes,
Because they're
right.
different,
But
right? It's about the context of how you use the words that make the description possible. So we have sex, which we all agreed on this call, which is the characteristics of biological traits that happen through a lot of different processes. And so for example, I was born male, but I identify as a woman because I am a woman. That doesn't negate the fact that I was born male. Do you understand that part?
right, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So
Okay, I, I,
so the
I,
gender
I
part
almost get it.
about me, so the
Yeah.
gender part about me is my woman that I identify with, which makes me a trans woman, right? If sex and gender
Yeah,
were the same, then why would I need a word trans woman?
Yep.
right, right.
And I would
Okay.
also throw out there because Josie mentioned a little bit earlier bimodal like sex characteristics, kind of this distribution where like most males fall into like this kind of lump. You can't see my hand gestures. This kind of lump over here, right? And most females, they have sex characteristics that fall into a different lump, but there's a lot of different distribution of those sex characteristics between those two lumps and on either end of those two lumps. I'm doing a terrible job explaining a bimodal distribution, but if you Google
Um,
what that looks like, you'll understand what that means, right? Um,
right, right.
and so the
Um,
reason I bring that
yes,
up is because a lot of trans people also take HRT, which spurs changes to different sexual characteristics as well, right? And so it's not
yeah,
necessarily as cut and dry as a lot of people imagine it is from, you know, their last time they went to a biology class. And
right,
so
right.
with trans people
Um,
in general, you have multiple things going on that like alter sex characteristics, and you also have identifying as uh like the gender they identify as. So there's two different things going on there that might be complicating how you're thinking about this issue.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead and respond. I'm sorry.
Sorry. Um, um. So I don't mean to like keep pressing this, right? I don't know if I'm coming off as disingenuous
No,
or
it's
anything, but
fine.
I'm
You're being
genuinely
fine.
trying to understand.
You're
Um,
great.
I just like when with this whole spectrum of gender, right? That does not that is not related to sex, right? Um,
Mhm.
when you say, I am non-binary or I am a woman or I am a man, what are you identifying as? Because the way I see it, right, there are no um like there are no there's no unifying factors that make somebody. I don't think like doing certain actions or presenting a certain way would make you a woman. I think that's like regressive, right? So what
We
exactly are
agree.
you saying when you say you're a woman or you're a man?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I agree with you. How you present has nothing to do with your identity, right? It's just how that works and your expression. That's why gender identity is different from gender expression, right? Like gender expression is like you can be a man but be very feminine, you can be a woman and be very masculine. That is something completely different as well. But when you talk about gender
Yeah,
identity, you are identifying as the thing that you are. So I identify as a woman. You've said you have identified as a man, right? Somebody who's non-binary doesn't identify or identifies with non-binary understanding of things that are outside of man and woman, and so that is essentially what that is. And I think that is the difficult part when you're trying to understand the concept of sex and gender being different, is that you have to kind of shift your way of thinking a little bit, of understanding how we relate to gender as a whole as you interact with human beings, right? Because somebody says I'm a woman, right? Then they are
Yeah, yeah.
saying, and this is something that exists, right? We have, and this one of the hosts says this very succinctly. I need to write it down, but it's a general schema of what womanhood is for me and how that shows up for me is kind of what woman means to me. So my womanhood is developed inside of all of the women in my life, culturally, my mother, people that I look up to, all of the things that I identified with that allows me to come up with the version of woman that you see in front of you on this show with you, just the same
Um,
with you, Luca, where your man, you identify as a man, and everything that you understand man to be is who you are, and that's developed off of cultural people that you know, people that raised you, people you look up to, all of that stuff comes together to be the core, the egg, the little stone that is man for you, right? And for you, that manhood is much bigger, and this is how I believe you're, and this is me saying this about you, so correct me if I'm wrong. Your manhood is bigger than your biology, right? Like you can't just like you don't have like you being a man, you don't have to look down and be like, oh yeah, I have a penis, so therefore I'm a man. You are a man because you are a man. You embody what manhood means to you, right? Because I think it would be disingenuous for me to say, Luca, I don't believe you're a man until I see between your legs, right? Because that's disrespectful, right? I trust that you are a man because you tell me you're a man. And for me to challenge that would be disrespectful for who you are because I just take your word for it. Just like if somebody says they like chocolate, I can't tell them, no, you don't. You like vanilla more. It's like there's nothing I can do to tell somebody that they don't like chocolate, right? It's just something inside of them. It's just what they are. They're a chocolate lover, right? And so it's the same type of thing. Does that make sense?
so when I say I'm a man, I'm referring if if manhood and
You're
womanhood means something different to everybody,
Yes,
um,
to everybody. Everybody has a
what
different
would be the
opinion on what
difference?
that looks like.
Well, then, why not just? What would be the difference between, let's say, a man whose manhood means something and a woman whose womanhood means something, and those some things are the same things, but they've come away with um, like these
Well,
influences on their lives, meaning manhood and womanhood instead of both being womanhood or both being manhood. Do you understand what I'm saying? That was
yes,
kind of,
yes.
I
You're
may have
you're
not
you're
phrased that
kind
well.
you're like on the verge of getting it. You're asking great questions, right? Which is that we are when we're talking about man and woman, we're talking about as Josie I think really eloquently put it there, like we're talking about this amalgamated idea of all the interactions you've had with other men or other women and like the ideas and traits, not traits, but like the ideas and qualities associated with those concepts, right? And all put together. And when we talk about something being socially constructed in this way, especially something as intimate as identity, it doesn't mean that it's not real, and it doesn't mean that it's not real to you. Uh, but what it does mean is that it can be subject to change, especially over time. And this is where I think looking at history in particular is really helpful because we can see that there in the past have been certain activities or ideas associated or qualities associated with what it means to be a man versus what it means to be a woman.
Oh,
And you can also, like right now, you can look at like India as a country, and they have an entirely officially recognized third gender that is existent in their historical record going back uh, over 1,000 years. Like it's. Uh, when you start asking questions about like, well, like, could you not, have like two people whose ideas of gender are like all is the same, but they're using different words to describe it, and like, yeah, you could. because it's malleable. It changes over time, you know. It was considered manly to wear high heels because originally they were developed as for use among cavalrymen, you know. And then it changed over time, and now we consider high heels to be relatively a feminine thing to partake in. But
Okay.
uh, do you kind of get where we're going with that?
So we're talking about masculinity and femininity, and that's what it means to be a man or a woman.
Well, not necessarily,
Not
Is
not
if you
exactly.
necessarily. And
identify.
this, it's so remember, the expression of how you show up is different than how you are and who you are,
But it could
right?
be an
Like
extension.
exactly. So the idea, like, somebody who's a tomboy, right? Somebody who's a tomboy who identifies as a woman has a very strong sense of gender identity for who they are as a woman, but they're incredibly butch, right? They like truck, they do everything that is manly in the words of expression, but in their mind, in their hearts, they're still women, right? It's because that is who they identify with. They identify with other women. You identify with other men, right? It's hard to explain why you identify with other men, but it's not because you all have penises. You identify with other men because they're men and you have that unspoken bond of identity and understanding that you are men and you're in this shared schema of understanding of what man is, right? And so because Luca, if somebody said to you, and I'm sure this has happened, I'm sure at some point in your life, somebody was like, "Oh, you don't like trucks? Well, you're not a real man." Right? We talked about that earlier. That's disrespectful. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think that's dumb. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Right?
so
So because only you as a person can identify that you're a man. Nobody else can come into your world and be like, you don't do this thing, so you're not a man, because that's fucked up. That's not how gender works, right? It's about who
okay.
you are. Does that make sense?
Um, y- yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's who you are. You're
So it's
you're a man because it's who you are, not what you were born.
Like
It's just who you are.
maybe
so why don't
a
we?
better example might a better example than what I used earlier with like a motorcycle accident might be if you went and took a DNA test and you found out you had XX chromosomes, which is possible. Like there are a variety of
Yeah,
intersex
yeah,
conditions that exist out
right,
there.
right.
Would you stop identifying as a man?
Um, no, under my worldview because of other sex characteristics that I have that would keep
No,
me in that group.
it's so
Oh
Luca,
wait,
you would
or
still be
or,
a
or
male. You would still be a male. The difference is
I'm
about
not a
gender
man.
identity, right? Because that's the
Okay.
difference, right? Like the difference is male is sex, man is gender. Right,
Okay.
that's the big
Um,
difference, right? And like you said at the beginning of this call, and I'm sorry, we're gonna have to be wrapping soon, but like you said at the beginning of this call, like you have trans allyship, right? You understand, you want to
yeah,
support and help trans people. Is that correct?
right.
Okay. So the idea of sex and gender, right? The sex
Yeah.
the sex of who you are is male. Like when you go to a doctor's office, you're
Okay.
checking a box that says you're male, so that way the doctor knows to check your prostate or do the things that male, bodies
Right,
have
right.
you have to deal with, right? And
Mm-hmm.
but you are a man not because you have to check that box at the doctor's office. You're a man because that's who you identify as. That's who you
I get it.
are,
Yeah.
right? So
Okay.
that's the gender part, right? So that's what you deal
Yeah.
with in society, right? When you're walking around the world, you're dealing with other men, not because they have penises, but just because they are men. And you know they're men because y'all have the understanding that you are men in the identity of man, right? Just like if I, like me personally, as a trans woman, I identify with women. I have many women friends. I do with women issues, all of the things that I have to do with as a woman, and it would be really weird if men came up to me and was like, "You're a man, you're my bro," like what? Like that would be weird, right? Wouldn't you agree with
Well,
that? Because they're not
I agree that
interacting
would
with
be
my
weird.
gender,
Right,
right?
right.
They're
But just to be
interacting
sure,
with my sex when they say that.
just to be clear, I can still identify with other women and still be a man, right? Like most of my friends can be
Yes.
women,
Yeah,
and I can like
Yes.
stereotypically feminine things and still be a man.
yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Because like
Okay.
there's a difference between like understanding where other people are coming from and personally identifying who you are as a man versus a woman, you know?
Right. But
Right.
Luca,
So
you would understand like if all your female friends were like, "Hey, we're having a girls' night. Sorry, Luca, you can't come." You would understand that, right?
yes, yeah,
So that because they're choosing to hang out with their gender as a group and no
yeah.
men
There's
in that group.
sociological differences between men and women.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. That's what they're
Um,
dealing with. They're not all being like everybody here has a vagina, right? Now we're gonna hang out. And if they were, I wouldn't want to hang out with those girls because that's fucking weird. But you know, but at the end of the day, it's like that's what it is. So in society, we interact with gender, right?
right. Um,
That's how we deal with things. We don't deal with
uh,
sex. That's like a medical thing.
okay. So I'm with you guys now. For the most part, my
Mhm.
only question would be, um, if these things are just how you identify, and you can behave any way, irrespective of your gender.
Mhm.
But gender is, or the social concept of gender, right, is causing harm to some people, right, in more conservative or regressive places. Um, Women, especially trans people, especially. Um, do you think it would be better to abolish gender as a whole and just let people live how they please and express themselves as they please without being chained to? Because I would say that the dominant force in society is that of two genders having to, behave a certain way. And if you don't fit within that narrative, you're ostracized and it can be pretty harmful to you. Right. So do you think that
So
it would be better to just do away with the concept of gender entirely?
I love that you're asking this question. I love it because I think it's a really cool question to ask, right? And how I would phrase it is that we should be seeking to do away with prescriptive notions of gender. And what I mean by that is like the idea that like other people can police you, like you're not really a man unless you like trucks, like, or you're not really a man unless you do X, Y, or Z. You're not really a woman unless you do X, Y, or Z. We should do away with those ideas because I think there are going to be people who always identify however they want to identify, right? Um, that's like you can't
Right.
really strip away anybody's identity. But what you can do is seek to create a society in which people aren't trying to police other people's identities and put them into boxes where you're a man, you can't cry, real men don't cry. Like that's bullshit. And it's always been bullshit. And we should work towards a world where like people can just exist how they want to exist and they don't need to have these prescriptive notions of gender. I think to some
I
extent we're always going to have gender, but we should seek to undo these restrictions.
Yeah, and I just want to add this, and we do have to wrap, unfortunately, soon, Luca. We've had a great call here, but um, we can't. What the word we're looking for is gender liberation, or that's really what it is. We want to be liberated of the rules that force us into the boxes that hurt people because of whatever perceived gender that they have. We can't abolish gender because gender identity exists. Gender identity exists in people no matter how we deal with it. It's inside of people. And if you don't have gender identity, then you're agender, and that's something that exists as well. But at the end of the day, it's like we're not seeking to abolish gender because the gender that people hold is very good and very important to them. My gender identity as a woman is very important to me. And I would be heartbroken if somebody came in and legislated a way that gender no longer exists no matter how you look at it, because I'm still going to show up the way that I show up every day. So the idea of abolishing gender is a concept that's not possible because I believe humanity has it inside of us. It's just how we are. That's just how we're programmed. Luca, you are programmed to be a man, and there's nothing that's going to change that. I am programmed to be a woman, and there's nothing that's going to change that. And so because of that, like we can't abolish gender because abolishing gender would take something fundamentally away from you too. Because I'm sure you're pretty proud to be a man. Would you agree?
Not really, but I see what you mean. I agree with you.
I understand that you're saying it. I say you're saying it in a politically correct way, but I will say that being a man is part of who you are, and I would never want to take that away from you.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not proud to be a man because, I didn't do anything to
I understand.
earn it. I was just born
get
that
what
way.
you mean.
Right.
You're just born that way.
Yeah.
Just like I was born a woman, but I just happened to be born in the sex of a male, but that doesn't change my womanhood because there's a difference between sex and gender. And that's what we were trying to get to all along. So before we let you go, is there a difference between sex and gender?
Yeah, I can agree with that. Thank you. It's been
Okay,
really
you're a
enlightening.
great trans ally. You're a trans ally. That's what that means, right? To believe in the difference between sex and gender is a trans ally. Go ahead.
Just one last question. Do you know of any, other resources you could point me to help me out with, with my journey of I guess being a trans ally? Yeah.
Go ahead, Jack. You look like
no, go for it. I'm sure you have like a bunch already pulled up.
Can we actually ask Luca to call back because we really got him
on
super chat?
Yeah,
sorry,
Luca,
we are over time.
We are over time. But go on Google, look up organizations and go to community groups in your area. But you're awesome. I appreciate you, but we do have to go. We have to try to wrap up in the next 14 minutes.
Thank you very much.
All right,
do call back sometime.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate the call. All right.
That went so well.
Yeah, it did. That was good. We got there.
Well, that was a wonderful call. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And if you did, let me know what you thought about it in the comments. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, if you will. And also consider doing that over on the line as well to support the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And it's a good time. Also, check the links down below because you can get links to the line, the episode, the Patreon, the merch store. There's a lot of cool stuff over there, and constantly being updated and added to all the time. So do check it all out. And also if you're in, oh god. I stopped at the weirdest. I stumbled over my words at the weirdest possible time and said urine. God. I don't think there's any way to salvage the end of this. So, like, comment, subscribe, and I hope you enjoyed this. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube is where she streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, plenty more. Her sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat.